Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unbiased America Live. I'm here without my amazingly annoying panel today. Nobody could show up. I think Grant is his excuse is that he has a job. I don't know if I believe him. I don't think that's possible. Kevin is passed out probably somewhere in a bush. I wouldn't know where Mike is, but as far as I know, he's in prison. So it just leaves me. The one unemployed vagabond on the show. I put a thread up on Unbiased America, our Facebook page, so viewers can ask questions. I will answer them on air. I figured we would talk about the upcoming convention here at the Libertarian Party. I already got one question. It's from Joseph Allen, and he asks, who will actually end up on the ticket? That's a pretty good question. Last time I talked to Austin Peterson was a few months ago. It was the beginning of April. And the problem there was that he has to deal with a Libertarian Party establishment that obviously heavily favors Gary Johnson. So I don't know. He's had some recent endorsements from Glenn Beck. He's also had a recent endorsement from Mary Madeline. But I don't know if that'll be enough to overcome the powers that be in the Libertarian Party. It has an establishment just like any other party. The establishment is very exclusive. It's hard to get donors there. Gary Johnson has the name. Austin Peterson doesn't necessarily have the name, and he could be picking up steam a little bit too late, though I would prefer to have Austin Peterson than Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson, to me, just seems like another run-of-the-mill Democrat or an establishment Republican. I would prefer to have, that's even a difficult question. Some of the things Gary Johnson has said have really turned me off to him. I don't know if it would be as hard to turn me off to Donald Trump, but I think both. If let's say Gary Johnson was in there, and hypothetically, in another world, Gary Johnson were to be elected, he would have just as good a Supreme Court nominees as Trump has. Trump released a list of really excellent judges, really good originalists. So, I'm really torn right now. I don't know what you guys are going to do. Maybe some of you can tell me. Let me shut this window. But I live in California, so I don't have to vote for I don't have to vote for Donald Trump because I'm in a state that doesn't matter. I don't know what you guys will do. I know I'll vote third party, and if the Libertarian Party nominee is Gary Johnson, I'll probably vote Constitution Party, and then locally for Republicans. I just don't see, like, if you're in a swing state. If I was in Florida. If I was in, any of these contested states, I'd have to vote Trump just because I'm worried about the Supreme Court. I don't want to lose because I dislike Donald Trump and I know that he's unprincipled. I don't want to lose the Supreme Court and the Constitution for generations to come. I'd really be interested in what you guys actually thought about that. I know so many people are just, dogmatically opposed to anything Trump, but you got to think kind of rationally here. There's a lot on the line. John Madison here says the Libertarian Party can only win never Trump conservatives with Austin Peterson. They will not vote for a pro-choice candidate. That's a really good point. The only problem with Austin Peterson is his knowledge of the 14th Amendment, and on the Obergefell decision, him saying that, he supports same-sex marriage, which is fine. Just the thing is that you could support same-sex marriage and support self-government at the same time. You could support the original meaning of the 14th Amendment, which has nothing to do with marriage or marriage as a right, and still support same-sex marriage. So he made a big slip up there. I think it was PJ Media reported it. He went on with some radio host and said that, he supports, same-sex marriage, and he supported the Obergefell decision, which was a massive federal overreach, writing into the Constitution this perceived right to marriage. And I think Austin used the Privileges and Immunities Clause to justify it, but the Privileges and Immunities Clause would only interpolates those rights that we see as natural rights. So no, that's not a natural right to marriage. He used I think somebody on one of his threads, I confronted him about it, and somebody said that, it's the Equal Protection Clause. They did not use the Equal Protection Clause. It's important to remember that the 14th Amendment applies to people. It does not apply to behavior. Every law that's pretty much promulgated restricts behavior. Marriage law, for instance, restricts behavior. People voluntarily interject the government as a third party into their relationships to restrict behavior. I'm lost as to where it's a libertarian idea that people need a government contract to restrict their behavior in order to prove that they love one another, and that somehow these restrictions exist as a right. It makes little sense. Furthermore, the state has zero vested interest in same-sex marriages, seeing that there is no outcome. Obviously, there's an outcome in heterosexual unions. I don't see where this is somehow like this is controversial. And if you don't want a marriage license, don't get it. But it really runs on demand. I mean, people demand a marriage contract for obvious reasons. Child rearing is far more expensive for a woman than it is a man, and they want some protection in their investment. That's what a marriage contract does by restricting the husband's activities. I mean, that's how it's traditionally been. It will restrict either's activities. Let's say the guy wants to be a stay-at-home dad. I don't know why you would want to do that, but anyway, it would restrict. It would protect his investment too. Let's see what else we got here. Brian Jung, who do you like for the LP ticket? How are they going to expand the LP party? What do you think is the best strategy? Love your stuff. Wish I can watch live. We'll have to watch later tonight. All right. Brian Jung. The LP ticket, I'll tell you who I don't like. I don't like McAfee. He's too dogmatically libertarian. He toes the libertarian line. I don't know how much he knows about politics in general. Well-accomplished guy, but just because you have a business and a successful business doesn't make you a savvy politician, or doesn't make you knowledgeable about the rule of law, about liberty, about classical liberalism. I don't think repeating platitudes is a sufficient condition for you to become the president of the United States. Gary Johnson, as we all know, has said some controversial things, forcing people to bake a cake. Seems to be pretty anti-religious liberty, and if we didn't have religious liberty, we probably wouldn't have had the 13 colonies. So I really don't know where these guys are coming from. Here they claim to carry the mantle of classical liberalism, but they're saying things that, have John Locke rolling over in his grave. Austin Peterson seems to be the best candidate. I mean, the best strategy is that he's inclusive. I think the problem was with the party that they tried to exclude him and people with the same type of ideology as Austin. So I think that he can bring more people into the fold. I think that he needs perhaps a more experienced campaign manager. Who he has now is pretty awful. He has to watch what he says now that he's gaining more of the spotlight, and you're trying to win over this conservative vote. These are smart people. They understand how the Constitution works. They've been in conservative politics for a long time, and you can't trick them. And if you say something like you have a right to live, or women are going to be walking around with ankle bracelets on, pregnant women to prevent them from having an abortion, you're going to lose and turn off a lot of people. And they're principled voters, and they're not going to go for that. So I think there are things where he can just stick to the federalism line, and he claims to be the Constitution. He claims to be a constitutionalist. So it's time to put his money where his mouth is. I mean, if you want to have a prudent strategy, you go out and say, look, I support same-sex marriage. I don't support the Obergefell decision. I support states deciding. I support self-government. At the state level, I support competition between states. I mean, here's a free market candidate. Let's talk about the markets for government. People voting with their feet. People do it all the time in private markets. So I think that Austin is the best chance. I think that he's 35 years old. He's young. This is his first campaign. I don't think he expected to make it this far, so I don't think that he had the right people around him. But look, the man's he's a great marketer. He's a smart guy. You can't knock him for that, and he has the right views on a lot of things, and he can incorporate a lot more people to the party. If anything, Austin Peterson's great for the Libertarian Party, and if he was on the Libertarian ticket, I would vote for him in California. I wouldn't if I was in a swing state, only for the purposes of the Supreme Court. I mean, we don't want to lose our Constitution for generations to come. Chad Greenwood here writes, what do you think about the events at DePaul University yesterday? I don't know enough about the events at DePaul University, to be honest. I've been studying quite a bit. Randy Barnett came out with a book called Our Republican Constitution, and I haven't been able to put it down, but I did hear about it. I can look it up really quickly. You know, when you're busy reading, it's hard to follow up on all of these things. Let me check it out. I had Huffington Post on. God, the headlines on that thing makes me want to gouge my eyes out. Oh, this is with the Milo. You know, I don't know. I like what these guys are doing. They're walking into the fire here. I heard a little bit about it. I just think that, you know, I think we should use arguments rather than creating these kind of clashes. But I look, he can do what he wants. I don't know how constructive they are. What these guys tend to be doing. I think Ben Shapiro has a better method. I think he uses more argumentation and he kind of deconstructs their silly arguments. I think Milo is kind of this, you know, blunt object that just runs in there and tries to cause up a stir and perhaps tries to make a name. I don't have a problem with that. And I like that somebody is going after these people. But I think it makes our job at Unbiased America just a little bit harder when combating these things. I'm not right on everything. Maybe what he's doing will work in the long run, but I'm not so sure. If you guys don't like my answers, you could rip me apart on the Unbiased America thread. You can have at it. Let's see if there's any new questions here. I mean, is it true you're a closet statist? From Muhammad M. Shaker. That is absolutely true. I am a closet statist because I think that limited government and constitutional order is the most propitious system for liberty. So, you know, to any ANCAP, I suppose I'm quite the huge statist. Grant would probably think I'm a statist too because that guy is kooky. I mean, oh, by the way, I have a little series, UA Spotlight, that came out. I talk about the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, and a little bit of original meaning with David Shestokas. You can look it up on YouTube. And also I have Adam Friedman, who wrote The Naked Constitution and A Less Perfect Union. He is a lawyer in New York State, in New York City specifically, and he will be on with me June 11th. I will upload that video to Facebook. We're going to be talking about actually Austin Peterson's contentions on the 14th Amendment and on the validity of the Obergefell decision, which, as you know, is the same-sex marriage decision. So I'll address that. I've wanted to address that for a while, and you know, I got into it with someone in he has a thread about the 14th Amendment, and it just ticks me off when people pontificate on the fourth. This guy was convinced that it was the Equal Protection Clause. No matter how many links I showed this guy, that it was not the Equal Protection Clause. He just would not stop talking about it. So I really like to clear that stuff up. I don't even know why I care so much or deal with one person that clearly doesn't have a clue what they're talking about, but I do. I don't know if there's any more questions rolling in here. But the show's probably better now because those other guys were actually so hard to look at that, you know, it made the show somewhat unappealing. I totally get it. Here we go. We got one from Renee Meehan. If you were personally running for the nomination, what would be your tax plan, foreign policy, border policy, immigration policy? That's actually a pretty good question. I mean, a tax plan, what I would do, I would have a 10% across the board flat tax. I would reduce regulations as best I could. I would roll back any regulation for any reason at any time whatsoever. Ronald Reagan had an excellent executive order where he tried to roll back the federal bureaucracy by creating rules, making it more onerous for these bureaucracies to just create laws out of thin air, and you know, and venture into state laws where the states are meant to have autonomy. I would try to reform the administrative state, which is the bureaucracy in the executive branch, which makes laws. The Congress has delegated them lawmaking powers. I would try my best to moor them to the body politic so that they're not making these laws insulated from the body politic. I think that's where tyranny is really coming from. For my foreign policy, it'd be one of non-interventionism. It would be one where, you know, we put the United States of America and their interests first. I do not believe in nation building, certainly where no civil society has ever existed, such as we see in the Middle East. I don't really think that it's necessary for us to get caught in foreign entanglements if they have little to do with our foreign policy. That does not mean I'm an isolationist. Conservative foreign policy is one of Ronald Reagan. He tried to avoid war at all costs, but you know, you do things behind the scenes. I think peace from strength, what Rand Paul and Ted Cruz have talked about, is the best way to go about it. So I just don't think that, perpetual wars or these entanglements are necessarily a good thing. The Iraq War, the process of nation building, just a terrible idea that has to end. That was never a conservative conception. That is more of a neoconservative conception. That was never how conservative foreign policy was ever supposed to work. Peter Ferrara wrote a piece on it not long ago. If you guys look that up, it's actually pretty good. On border policy, there's always a confusion with border policy. And as a conservative, I say I want secure borders. I do not want closed borders. I want the rule of law, whether I like it or not, to be followed. I don't want them to be completely closed off. I just like to know who's coming here and why. I don't think that's. I think that's a logical policy. These people should prove to us why they want to come to the United States, why they want to be an American citizen. They should prove some requisite knowledge of the Declaration of Independence, natural rights. They should understand property rights. They should understand, absolutely the Second Amendment, why we have a right to bear arms here. I do not want people coming here for, obviously, the welfare state. You could say all day that, immigrants or illegal aliens don't receive welfare, and that would be correct, but there are incentives for them to come here. They come here to have a child, and that child will be able to receive benefits. Obviously, those benefits go to the household. There are other incentives. Yes, people say, oh, they take jobs Americans want. Well, or they take jobs Americans don't want, is the mantra coming from libertarians or liberals. And the conservatives are often mocked for saying, oh, they take American jobs. Well, they do compete. I did a post on Unbiased America. They do compete for these jobs you tend to think of as immigrant jobs. Janitors, landscapers, they are competing with American labor. But the big thing is that they displace jobs. Certainly since the Hart-Sellers Act, we've had an explosion of unskilled immigrant labor. And since that time, the increase before that, I think it was 1965, the increase before that in low skilled labor was a lot larger than it was in the years since. And I think before that, the increase was in the 40s. And since it's been about 15%, that's all adjusted for inflation. So yes, it does displace workers, certainly American workers who are on welfare. And do want to go into the private market. It's probably more beneficial for them to stay on welfare, obviously, depending on what they value their leisure at and what their reservation wage is at. Meaning, if they shift from welfare or that guaranteed income into a paid job, that there's going to be some sort of they're going to either pay implicit taxes by taking the job for less, or if they value their leisure time, they're getting paid already for doing nothing. So why would they go and take a job where it requires them to work for the same amount of pay? So yes, it does displace American workers. I'm not saying that libertarians tend to look at these things through models, and that if you have an influx of immigrants, you're going to have greater output, but that's not necessarily the case. We don't know why they're coming here, if they're coming here solely to work, because we don't have any statistics on them. Most are coming in illegally. We do know that immigrants from Latin America tend to collect more welfare than Asians, for example. So I think that America needs a more prudent immigration strategy. If you see the country, if the Trump phenomenon is anything, it's the country's fed up with our lax immigration policy. So something really has to be done about it, no matter how much you'd really like to ignore it. I'm sure that's going to tick a lot of people off, but I really don't care. You should be mad, but come prepared with arguments for it, because I've seen some pretty poor ones. Let's see. I appreciate David Halloran. I appreciate what you do very much. How is the Constitution relevant in this day and age? Isn't it just some old document written by some old white racists? That is actually a question I addressed with David Shestokas a while back. That somehow that dates on a calendar invalidate or make null and void natural law. That all of a sudden, my rights to property are somehow, subject to the calendar. That oh yeah, sure, that worked in the 1800s, but it doesn't work today. Well, I would disagree. They have a whole field that proves that it works at any time, at any place, and that's called economics. And we know that through private property rights, people have, ensuring that they can keep what they produce is the best system and most efficient system for the overall welfare of any economy. If you look at it, to mitigate deadweight loss, to mitigate inefficiencies, and that ameliorates waste. I mean, that's what economics does. I know a lot of people like to, especially libs, like to get rid of it, but you just can't do it. You just can't escape reality. As much as these postmodernists try to say a reality doesn't exist, you can't escape it. And as we know from Marxism and socialism and the absolute atrocities and the tens of millions of people that have been killed by it, and all of those left impoverished, and you just can't escape the reality of these sick systems, even though as much as people try. Not getting much questions filtering in right now, but let me refresh it and see what we got here. And then after this, I can go over some headlines at Salon or something and make fun of them. Yep, not getting any more. Let me check my personal page for you guys. I know there's a bunch of questions out there. It's unfortunate that YouTube doesn't have a way to do these questions, so it's kind of a bad thing. No, there are no more questions. So let me go to Huffington Post here and see what we can make fun of. I think it's hilarious. Let me check the leader or the chat here in Liberty.me too. Maybe there's some people in there that have some questions. Oh yeah, I'm not even logged in. You see, Liberty.me is now free. I don't know if you guys know that, so you don't have to have. And they just teamed up with Matt Kibbe's page too, so there's a lot more fun stuff at Liberty.me. Obviously, not just the show, which is awesome and everything, but there's other things there too. I'm gonna look in the chat there to see if anybody has anything profound to say. But I saw that the liberals are upset about a ban that Governor Haley instituted there in South Carolina, limiting abortions after the 20-week period. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's shocking to me that these people just kill babies whenever you want. I've never seen anything like it. As if there's no means to prevent to prevent conceiving a child. It's like the only option is to kill it. It's almost as if they want, like, this is a means of birth control, like unfettered abortion. Even in Europe, they don't have such easy access to abortion. I just don't understand why that is such a huge issue to the left, is to allow women to kill the baby whenever they want. I don't understand how that's not sick, that we don't find that absolutely repulsive. But maybe it's just me. Nope, we don't really have anybody in the chat here. I don't think there's anybody there, so that's all right. I'll look again on Facebook. Pretty soon it'll just be me rambling on, and I'll shut it off before that. But let's see if anybody else wants to know what's going on. There were some pretty good questions. I just want to know what you guys think about the Libertarian Party. That's really what I'm concerned about. I don't know what you guys are going to do. I'm really concerned about what people are going to do in swing states. If they're going to vote for, if they're going to vote for Trump. I mean, I'm really worried about the Supreme Court. So, I don't know. Are you guys worried about that? Let me know. Go into this thread on Unbiased America and let me know, and I'll air your concerns here. I think there's one from Chad here. Hold on one second. Let me take a look. Recently, Ron Paul said something to the effect of Sanders and I have a lot of common ground. Do you feel there's any reason for a libertarian to support Sanders? I absolutely feel there's zero reason for a libertarian to support Sanders. I understand libertarians on social issues. I get that they're postmodernists in that regard. I just don't understand how that could be consistent with, the philosophy that undergirds markets, and that's of the civil society, people respecting natural rights. That also undergirds, these moral issues. I mean, capitalism's a moral issue. Capitalism's a moral system. It's predicated on moral claims. Those are life, liberty, and property. And, the same way that people will defend these things, people like me, these ontological philosophical claims, is by, giving a rational order to things, a natural order, saying that, these natural rights are imperative for final causes or purpose of every individual, which is human flourishing. The same as these moral claims of that abortion is wrong because you're killing a human being. As many times as they try to reduce it to a clump of cells, I've seen it a tumor. Some really odd things going on. It's amazing to me the logic of the left is you're killing a human being. There's just no way around it. To turn it into a reproductive rights issue, you're insane. Every time the left wants something, it's a right. And you know what? The libertarians do this too. Marriage is a right, or whatever they see, whatever they like, whatever conception they have is also a right. I don't understand that. So this whole thing with libertarians supporting Sanders, he's completely anti-market. He's completely anti-freedom. I don't understand. I wouldn't understand that. How a libertarian could support Sanders. And I'm not saying, look, every libertarian's the same. There's some consistent libertarians. I mean, Austin Peterson and I probably have a few things that we disagree on, but I think we agree on most things for the most part. But I see this a lot with Trump trying to pull in Sanders voters. I don't understand why he would try that too. I know he's a leftist, but these Sanders voters, these are Marxists. These are out of the closet Marxists. I mean, that's furious that Trump's thinking, oh, let me get some of these disaffected Sanders voters. I mean, the reason why he's not winning in the Democratic primary is because he's even to the left of a Democrat platform that's pretty far to the left already. So, I mean, they're really trying to rein in their party. If the Republicans had half a brain, they would have tried to rein in the leftism of Donald Trump. I mean, 58% of the electorate rejected him. What gave Trump a distinct advantage was the 17 candidates they had at the beginning that really split that anti-Trump vote. So now we're stuck with him. But I mean, everybody's talking polls now. He's ahead of Hillary Clinton in the polls. We'll see what happens. I had a friend of mine, tell me a few weeks back, oh, it's impossible. The polls don't change. Hillary will win. Now, obviously, Donald Trump polls within a little bit in the lead. It's really meaningless at this point. I'd like to see these two go at it for a while. I would really like Donald Trump to lay off the Bill Clinton thing. I think that's getting old. We don't really care about Bill Clinton. We care about regulations. We care about taxes. We want jobs. We want to get the government off the back of industry. We want to lower the corporate tax rate. We want to keep jobs here. I doubt that Donald Trump wants to do any of those things. But, I posted something today on my page about libertarians fleeing the Republican Party, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think that we need to rein Donald Trump in. I think that's our only hope. One of these people are going to win. Either it's Donald Trump or it's Hillary Clinton. There isn't going to be a libertarian president. I hate to break it to you. So I think this is where we dig in here and we try to pull Donald Trump back to the right. I mean, here he is trying to appeal to these Sanders voters, these disaffected leftists, and he's going to say things like, oh, maybe perhaps we can do something about the minimum wage. He's going to come up with these leftist arguments, certainly on tariffs, which won him a large portion of the GOP electorate. But I mean, I think it's time that we took a stand and said, hey, look, if you want our votes, you're going to have to start coming back towards liberty. How often have these candidates ever mentioned the Constitution, individual liberty, original intent? I think those are winning issues. I don't think I think Rand Paul and Ted Cruz had a valid shot this year. It was just a year of really uninformed voters deciding who is establishment and who is anti-establishment. Anybody who follows Rand Paul and Ted Cruz knows they're the most anti-establishment candidates out there. Donald Trump was better able to tap into the anger and frustration of the electorate. People saw Rand Paul and Ted Cruz as just another suit in government. They had no idea of their records or their backgrounds, and they voted for Trump. And Trump's a businessman, and to them, they think, oh, business means you're on the right. I guess they forgot about George Soros and that other nitwit, Tom Steyer. God, I hate that guy. But it seems that Trump. Who wants to talk about him anyway? I'm sick of that guy's orange face. But just even having that image seared in my head bothers me. Another question: what do you think Trump will nominate for the VP, or is Trump again? What is the history of the Libertarian Party? Does my vote even matter? I don't know who Donald Trump will nominate for VP. I think he's going to have to nominate somebody with some experience. It'll have to be an ex-governor. I think it'll either most likely be a woman to combat Hillary's narrative of women. It's amazing how they do these things. That these narratives. Oh well, I'll nominate. Just can't nominate the best person for the job. but it'll most likely be a woman, and I suspect it'll be Susana Martinez. I think that would be the best choice for Donald Trump, considering his problem with Hispanics, or his perceived problem with Hispanics. God only knows how true it is. That could be just another narrative, and his problem with women, which I have seen in the polls. But he's really creeping up on Hillary in most respects. Let's see. I'm getting a lot of praise here. Emily Cooley, that's very nice. Wilbur Cadella for president. One of these days. I got one. Why are you literally Hitler? That's an excellent question. I actually grew up idolizing Mussolini, who was Hitler's, idol as well. I'm kidding. I don't find Mussolini as an idol. That's just a silly question from a silly guy who wants to know about stupid things, and no one cares. That's pretty much it for the questions. I just really do want to remind you guys to watch UA Spotlight. It's a new series where I sit down with a guest. I will sit down with constitutional lawyer Adam Friedman, and we will talk 14th Amendment. I do have a piece coming out on that, though I have been pretty busy. You guys can find all this too at our new website. It's up unbiasedamerica.com. We have all our articles there. All of Grant's, the Modern Libertarian stuff is there. Matt Palumbo's stuff is there. So on and so forth. I do want to bring up something. There was this video on Salon. I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it was about this guy who he was talking about that he's a pedophile, so he's attracted to young girls, which is sick in and of itself. But they were trying to normalize it. You see, they were trying to make this guy out to be some sort of a victim. That I'm a pedophile, I'm not a molester, and he's trying to talk about the difference, and that there was some real sick stuff going on. But anyway, Salon's trying to normalize this type of behavior and this attraction. He's saying he's not a monster. I'm a pedophile. This is what I'm attracted to. I believe that he was molested as a child. Which I feel for him. But the fact that these people don't look at this as a mental disorder, as if there's something inherently wrong with this person, is how far away we're moving. What we call social issues, which are really moral issues. How far we're moving away from certain philosophical conceptions, that of these moral objective truths, that is morally objectionable I think to even be attracted, to even have that thought, is a moral outrage. And that people try to normalize this. Salon, how does this? Who would even read that crap? How is that not in the news? You know what I mean? Everyone's trying to capitalize on a libertarian or a conservative saying something that they perceive as racist that isn't even racist, but that's out everywhere. But a guy's openly talking on Salon about, oh, I'm not a victim, I'm just attracted to 4-year-olds. If I ever saw that guy, I God help me, I don't even know what I would do. But that's just terrible to me. I went to Salon, and it was all fraught with ads. That's another thing. At Unbiased America, we don't have all those ads. We're not that desperate. We just want to get the message out there. But if you want to throw us a couple bucks, we're not against it. Huffington Post had some pretty good headlines. Let's make fun of them. They're pretty stupid. Great business model, but oh my God, there's some horrible stuff there. Here we go. There's DNC chair under fire for fears of convention discord. Known as Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She is another horrible human being. I swear to God, I don't think there's anything that woman's ever said that I've agreed with. This is another thing. 11 states to sue the Obama administration over the bathroom directive. That's another thing that separates libertarians. Oh, why do you care? Well, number one, it's about public bathrooms. It's not about private bathrooms. It's not about who uses your bathroom in your home. So yes, the state has a vested interest in protecting people in public restrooms. Obama's dictate, though, is part of the imperial presidency. He has zero executive power. One, to create a law, and second, to enforce it. I think it was Montesquieu that said if the legislative power is contained within the executive, you have tyranny. And here's a guy just making these dictates. He's done the same with Obamacare. He's just unilaterally got rid of certain parts of Obamacare. I think everyone's forgotten about that. Just to make the law better so people don't want to repeal the law wholesale. This is the type of thing this guy does. Immigration law, he's just thrown parts of it out of the window. He's written executive orders on pay in the executive branch. The guy has really lost his marbles. I think he was in Vietnam a few days ago, and here he is. He's trashing the United States of America. Oh, women don't get paid. He's in a communist country, trashing women don't get paid enough. There's too much money in politics. This is coming from the guy that raised $1 billion to win. He wasn't complaining then that there was too much money in politics. I mean, literally, this Vietnam, a hellhole. Hundreds of thousands of people escape, boat people, come to the United States for opportunity, doing wonderfully here. He's over there bad-mouthing us. I do think that we're all lamenting Trump. This man that we have in office now is the worst, and he is a Marxist. He's a principled Marxist. Yes, Donald Trump doesn't have any principles, but I would much prefer that over this loon job we have in office right now. I don't. If you can't get on board with that, I'm sorry. I don't know where you stand then. But Marxism is a dangerous ideology. His foreign policy was awful. He was also another know-nothing that wasn't inexperienced, knew nothing about foreign policy. We have the same thing with Donald Trump, whose foreign policy I don't tend to disagree with. But I mean, let's see how long he can implement it, or let's see how long he stands firm. God only knows if he will or not. Edgar Cardenas, why so pessimistic and negative? How about something positive? Well, when you're on radio or on Google Hangouts like I am, nobody wants to hear how wonderful everything is. People are upset. Donald Trump actually won a presidential nomination on it. It's I don't like to be pessimistic. I don't like to be negative, but I like to be realistic. And there are things that are happening right now that aren't very good. So just to gloss it over with a positive attitude or positivity, I don't think is conducive to actually a free state. I mean, this is if the founders and framers were always positive, I don't know if we would have a revolutionary war. Certainly positive during it. Certainly positive that you're going to win. I think ultimately liberty will win, but I think it's a matter of how hard you're willing to fight, and how far and wide you're willing to spread the message. And that's what we're trying to do here at Unbiased America, is spread the message and get the word out there. But you make a solid point, Edgar. I'd like to be more positive. Give me a reason to be more positive. I'm worried about the Supreme Court. I'm worried about the Constitution, whether we're going to follow it to its original letter. I'm worried about a lot of certain things. Liberty for my children and grandchildren, who the state is already bankrupted. I mean, that's a form of child abuse as far as I'm concerned. What do we have, 19 trillion in debt? Who's going to pay that? I mean, this is on the backs of production. We haven't even produced yet. So is that fair? To get things today, we mortgage our kids and grandkids' future. I mean, what positive parts of the government would you like me to talk about? I'd love to do it. Or today's society. I got another question here in my inbox. Let's see what this is. Oh, now it's taking a long time to load. What is your favorite book at the moment? My favorite book right now, actually, one of my favorite books at the moment is Our Republican Constitution by Randy Barnett, who is a constitutional lawyer at Georgetown. But he's an excellent writer, and his writing style kind of reminds me of Adam Friedman, who wrote this book here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's called A Less Perfect Union: The Case for States' Rights. Very good book. He'll be on June 11th again. I know I mentioned it a few times, but we will be talking about the 14th Amendment. He was on once. If you look on YouTube, you could search for Unbiased America, Adam Friedman, and we do discuss this book when it came out. He also has another book called The Naked Constitution, which is a very good book. And that is an introductory book for people that want to know or want to get to know the Constitution. I would really highly recommend that. If you want to get into originalism and classical liberalism, I think that's really the book to read. It does have a little piece in there, or a little chapter on the 14th Amendment. Another book for people that want to get into the Constitution is David Shistoka's Constitutional Soundbites. You can find my interview with him. We do a little series on what the Constitution was originally created for, why the Articles of Confederation had failed, actually, because the Articles of Confederation were too democratic. I know a lot of libertarians that like the Articles of Confederation, thinking that they were more restrictive, but actually people were at the behest of majorities in their states. And Madison really lamented the Articles of Confederation as too democratic. I think if people just looked a lot more into these things, they could see why the Constitution is a superior document. No one says it's perfect. Just because I like the Constitution doesn't mean I think it's a perfect document. Humans are imperfect. Therefore, anything they create will be imperfect. Therefore, institutions such as capitalism will be imperfect. But it's a matter of cost-benefit analysis. What is the best system? What is the most efficient system? Those are the questions we should be asking. These things need to be stand the test of reality. Let me get to another question here. See what you guys are asking. I always got to update my computer. Somebody asked, do you recommend a degree in political science? No. If you could get a degree in anything, I would say for people in economics, certainly mathematical economics, anything quantitative I would stick to. I really would not do just basic. I would not just get an economics degree. It would most definitely be a mathematical economics degree, and I would take as many quantitative classes as you can. Econometrics, forecasting, anything that you can do. Stick to any theory courses with mathematics. I would stick to. I would try to go as high as I could in calculus, and I would really try to learn Excel and Stata and all these all these different programs for research analysis. That would be my recommendation. I know that if I could do economics all over again, I would go for the more quantitative classes. I did do quantitative classes, but I would have just stuck with them. And I wouldn't. And I'm glad I got my political science degree, but what a bunch of postmodern crap that was. I mean, these people, the first day of class, they tell you there is no truth. So then this way they can fill your head with Marxist bull crap until your eyes pop out of your head. It's really awful. And I know you probably don't believe me, but you couldn't believe half of the things I've heard in this class about how horrible the country is, and most prominently how horrible white people are. I still can't believe that this is what I was hearing when I was like shaking when I was in there, thinking this guy's insane, and telling me that white people are all racist and they're trying to keep this white hegemonic rule and everything's a social construct, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't believe I had to go to the class. It was horrible. So I would say, please try to stray away from political science. They'll fill your head with crap. And if you're already somewhat informed or an autodidact, you would probably going to hate yourself if you did take it. Let me see what else we got here. Oh, there's some more comments. I'll try to get to all you guys. Here we go. Ryan King. How the heck is the LP going to deal with the fact that principle and practicality are not always compatible, especially given that we have a society and we need to peacefully coexist to get anything done? Meaning if we don't have greater range of support, we get 0% of pro-liberty ideas passed. When is the LP going to appeal to the hearts and minds of the masses? For example, the automatic gun comment Austin made carriers a loaded opinion for many voters. Is that really the best maximum to argue for? Or Johnson's constant play to acting more like a smooth cat rather than a strong leader of the free world? I can go on, but popular opinions is vying for the faction of minds who would rather live in their life than deal with DC. That's actually a pretty good question, I got to say. Austin Peterson has kind of broken that mold. I talked about this earlier in the show. Peterson has really broken that mold of the Libertarian Party being this one nap purist party. We had Wayne Allen Root on the show actually not too long ago, and he talked about the problem with the Libertarian parties, that they turn so many people off, that they turn donors away, and the party has really had a hard time making it. This seems to be a unique year, not just for Donald Trump and the GOP, where there's a real shift in the party, but also for libertarians who have a chance to get their message out there, certainly to conservative voters. But, libertarians really have to drop. I mean, I know everybody wants to push all these social issues. You can't do that. Capitalism is a moral social issue. This is how the left tries to tear these things apart. And one of it is by making, turning social issues into just a matter of subjectivity. I mean, it's subjective. Well, that's what they're trying to say about capitalism. That's what they're trying to say about everything. It's all subjective. You see, it's all a construct. And libertarians play into that, and conservatives understand that. And to win conservatives, you have to be a pro-life candidate and understand that, yes, the job of government is to protect life. That's the reason the government was instituted. Rights existed, then the government existed, not the other way around. You would have to understand that to know that marriage is not a right. Marriage was created by society, not by any government. So therefore, a government cannot change what society has already created under natural conditions. To say that it is a right, a marriage contract is a right, is to say that government somehow hands out a right. Well, if you say that, then that means that government can take rights away. So, you have to be really careful about what you say with conservatives. I think Austin, other than that, has done a wonderful job. Who I don't think any of you guys thought he'd make it this far, and he really has. He's an excellent marketer. He's clearly a smart guy. I think if he had better people around him, he could beat Gary Johnson. I think that Gary Johnson is too entrenched in the Libertarian Party. I could be wrong. Getting Glenn Beck's endorsement is a huge deal. Getting Mary Madeline, that's a big deal, and you gotta give credit where credit is due. And Austin's done a hell of a job. I tried to get him on the show again. I haven't heard back. I'll let him go, but it would be nice to have him on sometime. I've met him in person. He's a very nice guy, smart guy. I use the comparison. He's one of us. He's just a regular guy who has, who's adept at marketing, certainly in social media. And he's done an excellent job. And a lot of people have been hating on Austin Peterson. And I always remind him that, look, he's doing things that you couldn't do. As much as people love to hate him, you really got to give him credit where credit is due. Gary Johnson, that's the libertarian establishment guy, just like the GOP. He's got the money. He's got the pull. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what happens. They have to change their nominating process. I think that's some more good that will come out of this. Their nominating process is terrible, and it really does seem to favor the establishment. Keegan Zachary asks, how are the libertarian candidates so unlibertarian? Only McAfee represents the free mentality of the party, yet Johnson and Peterson poll above him. Has the party been hijacked by disgruntled Republicans just like the Tea Party? Here we go, Keegan. I mean, you're already excluding people. What they're trying to do is make a bigger tent in the Libertarian Party. It seems that when Rand Paul says that, everybody's stoked. Oh, bigger tent. Yeah, wonderful. Except when the Libertarian candidates do it. McAfee wouldn't know libertarianism if it hit him in the head. He wouldn't know he wouldn't know where libertarianism came from or classical liberalism came from. Just because a guy made $100 million doesn't make him some cognoscenti of classical liberalism. Furthermore, he's got a checkered past. He's a weird guy, and he's not good for the Libertarian Party overall. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I met him once. He's a very nice man. I'm just saying that he has a pretty checkered past, a questionable past, and it doesn't look good on the party. Johnson and Peterson, but has the party been hijacked by disgruntled Republicans, just like the Tea Party? No, I think that there's conservatives moving to the Libertarian Party. They're just more concerned about moral issues. They're more concerned about moral objectivity, where I think libertarians are more utilitarian. They're more, if it's libertarian ends, I'm fine with the means, and that's not how conservatives are, who are more concerned with the processes. Look, if a state wants to legalize same-sex marriage, a conservative, well, you'll have to deal with it or fight, or petition for redressive grievances at the state level. But to say that, let's throw away all these processes, these constitutional, democratic processes, it is absurd. So no, I think it's a good thing that's going on with Peterson. And Peterson is far more libertarian than Johnson, I would have to say, even from just looking at it from a conservative standpoint. We have Philip Patton posted a meme here, the anti-establishment candidate of the anti-establishment party. I like that. I mean, he is an anti-establishment candidate. He's doing a good job. I mean, look, I could support Austin Peterson. He's ticked me off a few times just on constitutional issues, but I think that's really just a matter of him being kind of a young candidate. This is his first time. He'll be back, and he will have more experience doing this. But he really knows how to utilize the social media aspect of it. Let me see if there's any more questions. There's actually a bunch more questions. Thanks, guys, for answering questions. I really do appreciate it. I'm here by myself, and I didn't want to cancel the show. So all the questions are very appreciated. I got Dominic Vietti here. I love Austin Peterson, but he's really green. Gary Johnson is a dud and a proven loser. That leaves the guy who snorts bath salts and is suspected of murder in Honduras. I love Dominic Vietti. He has a way of putting things into very few sentences that pack a whole lot of meaning. And he brought up the same point I did about Austin being green, but I don't think that's any reason not for him to win. He can definitely do a better job than Barack Obama. I think it depends on who Austin puts around him, and I think he's made some mistakes already. Mistakes, I don't know if they're mistakes. It was all he had when he started. His campaign manager, I don't want to mention any names, it was a really bad choice. He's a guy that is not savvy, politically savvy, probably doesn't know the systems very well, certainly doesn't know political campaigns. I think Austin's really doing much of that himself, and he's done a relatively good job considering how green he is. But I said that 30 times. Gary Johnson is a dud and a proven loser. He wasn't really that great of a governor in Utah. He's lost me on a few issues. He seems to be too overly confident and cocky too. I don't know if you guys agree, but let's see who else we got here. What are your thoughts on the EPA? My thoughts on the EPA is that it's a Politburo. Well, it is a Politburo, those things that, in the Soviet Union run by bureaucrats that, put their noses in everywhere that they're not supposed to put their noses. I mean, you can't even dig a ditch in your yard anymore without the EPA busting your chops. You can't do anything without the EPA crawling all over your back. And that goes for other federal bureaucracies like the SEC. What was I can't remember the other one there that, that did the regulations for net neutrality. You have all of these things. These federal bureaucracies are like the biggest pain in the Department of Education. That's got to go. The EPA has got to go. We have EPAs at the state levels. How many levels of redundancy do we need? And we've already learned that the federal government's largely incompetent. The state governments aren't much better. Why do we need a Department of Education? Why do we need an EPA at the federal level? It's ridiculous. I just want to, that's the thing that I hope Austin Peterson should run on, is saying, hey, look, this is what I want to abolish this and I want to abolish that. He should really get in there. I don't know, perhaps he already has. I know that he has said that stuff in the past. It would be great to hear him say it again to win over some more conservative voters. I'd really like to hear your opinion, guys, on what you're going to do if you're in a swing state. Are you going to vote for Trump? I mean, I'd like to get that information somehow. If the Supreme Court worries you like it worries me, I would have to do it and just sacrifice the next 4 years. Trump's tax plan isn't terrible. His tariffs add, a tremendous amount of bureaucracy, which grows government. We already have 12,000 tariffs on the books, which is 12,000 too many. We don't need any more. But his tax plan is much better than Hillary Clinton's, much better than Bernie Sanders. So, I mean, what are we going to do here? I mean, are we going to say, oh, we're not going to be in the process. We're not going to try to rein in Donald Trump. Are we going to dig in and fight? I mean, this is a fight in the long haul. I mean, I don't think we should, expect any short run victories here. I'm going to look for the last few questions, see if I got anything. Let me check my old page, The Analytical Conservative, and see if anybody put anything there. Nope. Oh, on my personal page, I have a not personal, public figure page. Let's see what we got here. Nope. Don't have anyone there either. So it looks like we can wind it down. If I were to do the winners and the losers this week like I normally do. Oh, we got some inbox messages here to UA. Nope. That's somebody just emailing us something. If you guys have any more questions, I'll end up the show with it. I'll round out the show. Everybody seems to be really interested in the Libertarian Party here. So let me know. I'll refresh this one more time. Yeah, nope, I answered that one already. Seems like I got them all. Thanks for submitting your questions, guys. I really appreciate it. Please follow us at unbiasedamerica.com. If you want, go to, on Unbiased America Facebook, unbiasedamerica.com. And then we have the Modern Libertarian, who's usually here. He's got good stuff on there. And follow We Are Capitalists too, which is another excellent page. I will do my winners and losers of the week, actually. My winner of the week is obviously Austin Peterson, who got the endorsement of Glenn Beck. That's a huge deal. Also Mary Madeline. It'll be interesting to see who else flees towards these libertarian candidates. Mark Levin hasn't, who's big in the conservative movement. I don't even think he knows who's running the Libertarian Party. That would be huge if he did. It would also be huge if a guy like George Will went the Peterson route. We'll see. I know Karl Rove isn't fond of Donald Trump. Let's see if he goes towards Austin Peterson. I doubt it. I'm just saying. I'm coming up with hypotheticals here. I don't know. You don't know. Maybe he does. These guys hate, Donald Trump. We'll see what they do. I would be really shocked if they did. But look, I've seen crazier things happen. I've seen Glenn Beck endorse Austin Peterson. But thanks again for watching. We will be back next week, again, June 11th, on Unbiased America Spotlight, which is a new show. I will have Adam Friedman discussing the 14th Amendment. We will be discussing the same-sex marriage decision. We will be discussing the separate clauses, the Equal Protection Clause, privileges and immunities, the Citizenship Clause, the Due Process Clause. We will talk about the Incorporation Doctrine. We will talk about the Fundamental Rights Doctrine. We will talk about substantive due process. We will talk about natural rights a little bit, I'm sure. So please tune into that. I will post a link when I get it. And again, thank you. Watch us next week. I will see you on next Wednesday. Thanks again. Have a great night. Go Austin Peterson.